I was staring at my laptop screen when the payment confirmation email appeared. $12,000. Another successful campaign completed. My home office felt smaller, somehow cozier, as afternoon light filtered through the window. I should have felt proud. Instead, my phone buzzed with a text from my sister Jessica. Family dinner this Saturday. Dad is grilling. I felt that familiar knot form in my stomach. Every time I went home, I braced myself for the same conversation about my joke career. But this time, something told me everything was about to change. I should have known that dinner would destroy everything. Before I tell you how one dinner ended my relationship with my father, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe, because what happens next will show you exactly when enough is finally enough. Trust me, you will want to see how this ends. My name is Dorian. I am 32 years old, and I live in a modest apartment in Portland, Oregon. For the past 7 years, I have worked as a digital marketing consultant and content strategist. Most people do not understand what that means. My father certainly does not. But let me paint you a picture of my typical day. I wake up around 6:30 a.m., make coffee, and settle into my home office by 7. My first meeting is usually with a client on the East Coast, someone launching a tech startup or scaling an e-commerce business. I build strategies for them. I analyze their target audience, create content calendars, manage their social media presence, and develop campaigns that actually convert. Some months, I make $15,000. Good months, I clear $20,000. I work hard, I work smart, and I genuinely love what I do. But none of that matters to my father. Let me take you back 7 years. I graduated from University of Oregon with a degree in marketing. Got hired immediately by a big agency in Seattle. The pay was decent, $65,000 a year plus benefits. My father, Richard, was thrilled. He finally had something to brag about at his Rotary Club meetings. His son, the agency man, professional, respectable, real. I lasted 2 years. The culture was toxic. 18-hour days were celebrated as dedication. Weekends did not exist. I watched colleagues have breakdowns in bathroom stalls. I developed insomnia. My relationship at the time fell apart because I was never present. So I quit. I moved back to Oregon, rented a cheap place in Portland, and started freelancing. I thought my father would understand. I was wrong. The argument we had still echoes sometimes. I can hear his voice, sharp and disappointed. You are throwing away a real job for what? Sitting at home in your pajamas. What are you going to tell people you do? Play on your computer. I tried to explain. Tried to show him the opportunities, the freedom, the potential. He waved me off. You will come crawling back in 6 months. Mark my words. That was 7 years ago. I never crawled back. But he never stopped waiting. What my father does not know, what nobody in my family knows except me, is that I have been keeping them afloat. My mother, Carol, died 10 years ago from breast cancer. It hollowed my father out. He retired early from the manufacturing plant where he had worked for 35 years. Between his pension and Social Security, he gets by. Barely. My sister Jessica is 28. She has been in graduate school for the past 2 years, pursuing her master's in education. Graduate school is not cheap. Between tuition, books, and living expenses, she has been struggling. So for the past 4 years, I have been sending my father $800 every month. He thinks it is money from my mother's life insurance policy, some mysterious dividend that keeps paying out. I let him believe that. It is easier than watching him choke on his pride. That is $38,400 right there. Then, there is Jessica's tuition. I have paid it in full for the past 2 years. $20,000 per year. Another $40,000. Total $78,400. Not from a trust fund, not from an inheritance, from my joke career, from posting things on Facebook, as my Uncle Greg likes to say, from work that apparently any idiot could learn on YouTube. I never told anyone. Not Jessica, not my father. Nobody. I did it because I love them. Because family is supposed to take care of each other. Even when that family does not respect you. Jessica's text was simple. Hey, Dad is grilling this Saturday. You should come. Been too long. Plus I have news. She added a smiling emoji. I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to decline. Invent some client emergency, some deadline I could not miss. But I missed my sister. And maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. Maybe my father would finally ask about my work, instead of dismissing it. Maybe I could tell him about the startup that just went public partially because of the brand strategy I built for them. Maybe he would be proud. I texted back a thumbs up. Told her I would be there around 5 p.m. Then I spent the rest of the week mentally preparing for the subtle jabs, the side comments, the disapproving looks. Saturday arrived with clear skies. I drove south from Portland to Salem, watching the landscape shift from urban sprawl to suburban neighborhoods. The drive takes about an hour. I use that time to rehearse responses in my head. Stay calm. Do not take the bait. Just get through dinner. The house looked exactly as I remembered. Small, well-maintained, the lawn meticulously mowed. My father takes pride in his yard. It is one of the few things he can still control. I parked on the street and walked up the driveway carrying a bottle of wine I knew no one would drink. The front door opened before I could knock. Jessica stood there radiant in a yellow sundress, her dark hair pulled back. She hugged me tight. "I missed you," she whispered. I hugged her back, breathing in the familiar scent of her lavender shampoo. For a moment, everything felt okay. Then I stepped inside and saw who else was there. My father stood by the grill in the backyard, spatula in hand. He wore his usual weekend uniform, cargo shorts and a faded polo shirt from some corporate golf tournament. He glanced my way. "You finally showed up." Not a greeting, an observation. I forced a smile. "Traffic was not bad." He grunted and turned back to the steaks. That is when I noticed the others. My Uncle Greg, my father's younger brother, sat at the patio table with his wife Diane. Greg is 58, works as a foreman at a lumber mill, and has never met an opinion he did not want to share loudly. Diane is quieter, the type who laughs at her husband's jokes even when they are not funny. Great. An audience. Jessica touched my arm. "Come on, let me get you a drink." We walked into the kitchen. She poured me a beer from a six-pack of some local IPA. "So what is your big news?" I asked. Her face lit up. "I got a job, a real teaching position, at Riverside Elementary. 5th grade. Starting salary is $52,000 a year with full benefits. Pension. Everything." I hugged her again. "That is amazing, Jess. I am so proud of you." I meant it. She had worked incredibly hard. She deserved this. I just did not know yet how her good news would be weaponized against me. We headed back outside. Everyone was settling around the patio table. My father was plating the steaks, thick cuts that smelled amazing despite everything. Diane had brought potato salad. There was a Caesar salad from the grocery store still in its plastic container. Garlic bread wrapped in foil. It could have been any family dinner. Uncle Greg raised his beer. "So Jessica tells us you got yourself a real job now. Congratulations, kid." Jessica blushed. "Thanks, Uncle Greg." He took a long drink, then turned those calculating eyes on me. "Not like whatever it is you do on that computer." There it was. Less than 5 minutes. I kept my voice level. "I run digital marketing campaigns for tech companies. Help them build their online presence." Greg laughed. "So you post stuff on Facebook," Diane giggled. I felt my jaw tighten but forced it to relax. "It is more complex than that. I create comprehensive strategies. Audience analysis, content development, conversion optimization." The words felt hollow even as I said them. I was defending myself to people who had already made up their minds. My father sat down heavily, cutting into his steak. He charges them thousands of dollars to do what exactly things anyone could learn on YouTube. The contempt in his voice was palpable. I set down my fork. "Dad, it is more complex than that. I create entire strategies, manage budgets, sometimes exceeding 6 figures, coordinate with developers and designers." He cut me off. "Strategy. That is a fancy word. Back in my day, we called that work. Real work. With your hands. Creating something tangible." His hands. Those hands that had operated machinery for 35 years. Those hands that were now weathered and arthritic. Those hands that had not adapted to a world that no longer valued manufacturing the way it once did. I looked down at my own hands. Smooth. Young. They moved across keyboards and touchscreens. They did not build physical things, but they built businesses. They built brands. They built futures. I tried to swallow the bite of steak in my mouth, but it felt like rubber. Jessica jumped in, bless her. "Dad, Dorian is really successful. You should see his client list." My father barely glanced at her. Successful. He does not even have an office. Does not wear a suit. Works from home like a shut-in. Uncle Greg nodded along like a dashboard bobblehead. At least Jessica got a real degree for a real profession. Something clicked in my mind. I paid $20,000 a year for that degree. I paid for the textbooks she complained about. I paid for the laptop she needed when hers died during finals. But I said nothing. Not yet. The dinner continued in painful silence for a few minutes. I moved food around my plate. Diane asked about the weather. Jessica tried to talk about her new school. But the tension hung there like humidity before a storm. Then my father decided to twist the knife. He turned to Greg with this ugly smile. You know what kills me. He probably charges his clients, and he drew out that word with pure mockery. What, $5,000, $10,000? Greg played along perfectly. For what, posting some pictures and writing captions? My father leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. What kind of idiots actually pay him? The silence that followed was absolute. Even the birds seemed to stop chirping. I felt every eye on me. Diane looked at her plate. Jessica's face had gone pale. Uncle Greg waited for my reaction like he was watching a prize fight. And my father, my own father, sat there with that smug expression, waiting for me to defend myself, waiting for me to prove I was not a fraud, waiting for me to justify my existence. Something inside me went very quiet. Not angry, not hurt, just quiet. I stood up slowly, carefully placing my napkin on the table. I need to use the bathroom. My voice sounded calm, too calm. Jessica started to say something, but I was already walking away. I went inside, climbed the stairs to the second floor, and locked myself in the bathroom. This bathroom where I used to brush my teeth as a kid, where my mother had given me my first haircut because we could not afford a barber, where I had cried when she died. I stood at the sink and looked at myself in the mirror. 32 years old. 7 years of building something from nothing. 4 years of quietly supporting my family. $78,400. And this is how they saw me. A joke. A scam artist. Someone who tricks idiots out of their money. I splashed cold water on my face. Looked at myself again. No more. The decision crystallized in that moment. Clean. Clear. Final. No more. I dried my hands, straightened my shirt, and walked back downstairs. My father was telling some story about his days at the plant. I interrupted him. I am heading out. He looked surprised, then annoyed. What you cannot handle, the truth. I met his eyes. I said nothing, not one word. I walked to the front door. Jessica followed me. Dorian, please. He did not mean it. Yes, he did. That is the problem. I hugged her quickly. Love you, Jess. Then I left. Got in my car. Drove away. Did not look back. I got home around 10 p.m. My apartment felt different, quieter, cleaner somehow. I dropped my keys on the counter, opened my laptop, and sat down at my desk. My hands were steady. My mind was clear. I opened my email and started typing. Subject line, Re-Financial Support. Recipient Richard Thompson. My father's full name looked strange in that field, formal and distant. I started writing. Dad, I have thought carefully about what you said tonight. My fingers moved across the keyboard with purpose. You asked what kind of idiots pay me. Let me answer that question. Tech startups, who have grown 300% using my strategies. Fortune 500 companies who hired me as a consultant. Clients who value expertise you have never tried to understand. Clients who respect what I do because they see the results. But here's what you do not know. For the past 4 years, I have been sending you $800 every month. Every single month. That is not from Mom's life insurance. There is no insurance dividend. That money came from my joke career. That is $38,400 of my supposedly worthless work. I paused, took a breath, kept typing. I also paid Jessica's graduate school tuition, both years, in full. That is another $40,000. I did not tell her. I did not tell anyone. I just did it because she is my sister, and I wanted to help. Total support $78,400. All of it earned by posting things on Facebook, apparently. All of it earned by tricking idiots. All of it earned doing something you consider a joke. Then I typed the line that would change everything. There will be no more transfers. I stared at those words. 5 words. The end of 4 years of silent generosity. The end of trying to earn respect I would never receive. I kept going. You wanted honesty tonight. You wanted truth. Here it is. I do not need your respect anymore. I really do not. I stopped needing it a long time ago. But you needed my money. You just did not know where it was coming from. You did not know that your bills stayed paid because of the son whose career you mock at family dinners. My hands were shaking now, not from anger, from liberation. Do not contact me unless you are ready to apologize, not just for tonight, for 7 years of disrespect, for every dismissive comment, for every time you made me feel small in front of family, for never once asking about my work with genuine interest, for never once saying you were proud. I reread the email 3 times, changed a word here and there, made sure it said exactly what I needed it to say. Then I moved my cursor to the send button. My finger hovered over the trackpad for just a moment. This would end things. This would burn a bridge that might never be rebuilt. Hit send. The email disappeared from my screen with a soft whoosh. I closed my laptop, sat in the dark for a while, then I went to bed. For the first time in 7 years, I slept without the weight of trying to prove myself. My phone started ringing at 10:43 p.m. I was already in bed but not asleep. The screen lit up with my father's name. I watched it ring. Let it go to voicemail. It rang again. And again. 7 calls total. Then the text messages started. Call me now. You cannot be serious. This is ridiculous. We need to talk. Then Jessica started calling. 4 calls in rapid succession. Her texts were different. Dorian, what the hell? Dad is freaking out. Did you really pay for my school? Call me please. I love you, but I need to understand what is happening. Are you okay? I turned my phone off. Put it in a drawer. The silence felt like a blanket. Heavy but warm. Safe. The next morning I turned my phone back on. 43 notifications. I did not read most of them. I blocked my father's number. Not out of spite. Out of necessity. I needed space to breathe. I left Jessica's number unblocked. She deserved an explanation. Around noon I texted her. I need space. I love you, but I cannot deal with this right now. What I said in the email is true. All of it. I am not angry at you. You did nothing wrong. But I need time. Her response came an hour later. I understand. Thank you for everything you did for me. I had no idea. I am so sorry for how Dad treats you. Take all the time you need. I am here when you are ready. That was it. No demands. No guilt. Just understanding. It made me realize that my sister had grown up while I was not paying attention. The first week felt strange. I kept expecting angry phone calls. Maybe my father showing up at my door. But there was nothing. Uncle Greg did not reach out. Aunt Diane did not send one of her awkward peacemaking texts. My father's side of the family had made their choice. Or maybe they just did not know what to say. I threw myself into work. I had 2 major campaigns launching that month. I poured every ounce of energy into them. Client meetings, strategy sessions, content creation, analytics review. The work was grounding. It reminded me why I chose this path. By the end of the first month, I had signed 2 new clients, both long-term contracts, both substantial retainers. My bank account had never looked better, and for the first time I did not feel guilty about my success. I did not hear my father's voice in the back of my head telling me it was not real work. Month 2 brought unexpected clarity. I realized I had been carrying anxiety I did not even know I had. Every time my business thrived, there had been this nagging voice whispering that I was a fraud, that eventually everyone would realize I was just winging it. That voice sounded exactly like my father. Now, without his constant disapproval, that voice started to fade. I started saying yes to things I had been too insecure to try. I pitched a workshop series on digital strategy. Got accepted. Started speaking at local marketing conferences. Met other professionals who respected what I did, who understood the value I created. It was intoxicating. Month 3, Jessica sent a short email. Dad sold the house. He is moving into a smaller apartment. Uncle Greg is helping with the move. Just thought you should know. I felt nothing reading that. No guilt. No satisfaction. Just a distant acknowledgement. My father was downsizing. That was his choice to make. His consequences to manage. I did not respond to Jessica's email. There was nothing to say. By month 4, I met someone. Her name is Lauren. She is a graphic designer who works with several of my clients. We ran into each other at a coffee shop. Started talking about a project. Ended up talking for 3 hours. She has this way of looking at the world that makes everything seem brighter. We started dating. Casual at first. Coffee dates. Walks through Washington Park. Then dinners. Then weekends. She asked about my family one evening over Thai food. I told her the whole story. The dinner, the email, the silence. She listened, without interrupting. When I finished, she reached across the table and took my hand. You did the right thing. Love should not mean letting people disrespect you. That night, lying in bed, I realized I had spent 7 years trying to prove my worth to someone who refused to see it. And I was done. Month 5 brought expansion. I hired 2 junior consultants. Bright kids fresh out of college, hungry to learn. I taught them everything I had figured out through trial and error. We moved from my apartment office to a small shared workspace downtown. Nothing fancy. Just a desk and some decent Wi-Fi. But it was an office. A real one. I wondered if my father would care. Probably not. Month 6 arrived quietly. 6 months since that dinner. 6 months since the email. 6 months of peace. Then Jessica reached out again. Not a text this time. An email. Subject: We need to talk. I opened it with my coffee going cold beside me. Dorian, I hope you are well. I have been giving you space like you asked. But I need to tell you something. Dad is struggling. Really struggling. The pension is not covering everything. He is behind on his apartment rent. Bills are piling up. He might lose his place. Uncle Greg cannot help. They have their own financial problems. I just started my teaching job. I do not have savings yet. I know what he said was terrible. I know you have every right to be angry. But he is our father. He is 64 years old, and he is drowning. Please. I read it twice. Waited for the guilt to hit. It did not come. Instead, I felt a strange calm. This was not my emergency. This was not my problem to fix. Not anymore. I had given 4 years and $78,000. I had given respect when I received none. I had given love to someone who repaid it with contempt. I was not responsible for his choices. Not his decision to retire early. Not his decision to sell a house without planning ahead. Not his refusal to apologize. I wrote back to Jessica, not to my father. Jessica, I love you. But this is not my problem to fix anymore. Dad has had 6 months to reach out. 6 months to apologize. He chose pride over family. I am not responsible for his financial situation. He is an adult who made adult choices. If he wants my help, he knows what he needs to do. He knows exactly what he needs to do. I am here if you need me, but I am not rescuing Dad. I hit send. This time there was no shaking. No hesitation. Just clarity. 3 months passed. 9 months total since that dinner. My business kept growing. The junior consultants were thriving. One of them landed a client on her own. I gave her a raise. Lauren and I moved in together. A small place in the Pearl District with exposed brick and big windows. We adopted a rescue dog named Murphy. Life felt full in ways it never had before. I still thought about my father sometimes. Usually late at night when I could not sleep. I wondered if he was okay. If he had figured things out. If he ever thought about apologizing. But those thoughts did not hurt anymore. They were just thoughts. Distant observations about someone I used to know. Jessica and I talked occasionally. She loved her teaching job. Her 5th graders were challenging but rewarding. She was dating someone, a middle school science teacher named Marcus. She sounded happy. She never brought up our father unless I asked. And I rarely asked. One evening about 10 months after the dinner, Jessica called instead of texting. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Of course." I put her on speaker while I chopped vegetables for dinner. She took a breath. "I need to tell you something. Dad finally moved. He found a cheaper apartment. 1 bedroom. Uncle Greg helped him downsize more. He is managing." "Barely, but managing." I kept chopping. "Okay." There was a long pause. "Jessica, I know you want me to ask how he is doing, to reach out, but I cannot. Not until he takes the first step." "I know," she said quietly. "I finally understand why you did what you did. He never apologized, did he?" "No. And I am okay with that now." "Are we okay?" she asked. "You and me?" "Always," I told her. "You did not do anything wrong." I heard her exhale. "Good. Because you are going to be an uncle." I stopped chopping. "What?" she laughed. "Marcus proposed last month. We are getting married next spring. And I am 12 weeks pregnant. We wanted to wait to tell people, but I could not wait to tell you. I set down the knife, emotion flooding through me. Jess, that is incredible. I am so happy for you. Are you coming to the wedding? She asked carefully. Of course. 100%. Will Dad be there? Yes. Long pause. Can you handle that? I thought about it. Honestly, I do not know. But I will be there for you. However you need me to be there. That is all I need to hear, she said. The wedding was beautiful. Small ceremony in a garden outside Salem. Jessica looked radiant in a simple white dress. Marcus seemed like a good man. Steady. Kind. Exactly what she deserved. My father was there. We did not speak. He sat on one side of the aisle. I sat on the other. When Jessica walked down the aisle, I saw him wipe his eyes. During the reception, I gave a toast. Talked about watching my little sister grow up. How proud I was of the woman she had become. How Marcus was lucky to have her. I did not mention my father. Did not need to. As I sat back down, I caught my father watching me. Our eyes met for just a second. I saw something there. Regret, maybe. Or just age. I looked away first. Not out of anger, just out of indifference. 2 weeks after the wedding, I was at a grocery store grabbing supplies for dinner. Lauren and I were hosting friends. I was in the produce section, trying to pick good avocados, when I heard a voice. Dorian. Is that you? I turned. Bob Chambers. My father's old colleague from the plant. I had not seen him in probably 5 years. Bob, hey. How are you? Good, good. He looked older. Grayer. Retired a few years back. I am doing well. Working. Living in Portland now. He nodded. How is your dad doing? I have not talked to him in a while. The truthful answer felt too complicated. We are not in touch much. Bob's face shifted. Oh. That is too bad. He seemed different last time I saw him. Maybe 6 months ago. Different, how quieter. Sad almost. You know, he used to brag about you all the time. Years ago. I blinked. He did, oh yeah. Before you went freelance, he was always talking about his son who graduated top of his class. Landed that big agency job in Seattle. Really proud. Then I guess something changed. He just stopped mentioning you. The information landed strange. My father had been proud. Once. Before I made a choice he could not understand. Before my success took a form he did not recognize. It did not excuse anything. Did not change what he said. But it gave context. His mockery was not about me. It was about his own fear. Fear that the world had left him behind. That his type of work did not matter anymore. That his son's success in a field he could not understand made his 35 years at the plant seem small. I thanked Bob for the chat. Finished my shopping. Drove home. Told Lauren about the encounter. She listened carefully. Does it change anything? She asked. No, I said. But I understand him better now. Understanding is not the same as forgiving. But it is something. I learned a lot in that year. More than I expected. Respect has to be mutual. You can love someone and still require them to treat you with dignity. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. I gave $78,000 and 7 years of tolerance. That was more than enough. Setting boundaries is not cruelty. It is self-preservation. When you constantly accept disrespect, you teach people that disrespecting you is acceptable. I taught my father that his behavior had no consequences. Until it did. Some people will not change until they face those consequences. And some will not change even then. That is not your failure. That is their choice. I do not control my father's pride. I do not control his inability to apologize. I only control my response. And my response is to choose peace over pain. I do not hate my father. Hate requires energy I do not have. Instead, I have found something better than forgiveness. I have found indifference. Not cold indifference. Just the quiet knowledge that his opinion of me no longer defines my worth. My business hit 7 figures in revenue this year. I hired 5 people total. I got engaged to Lauren. We are looking at houses, talking about starting a family. And none of that would feel as good if I was still seeking my father's approval. Sometimes the people who should celebrate your success the loudest are the ones who cannot. Not because you are not successful enough, but because your success challenges their entire worldview. My father built his identity on a type of work that no longer exists the way it once did. My success is a reminder of how much the world has changed, How much he has not. I do not know if my father will ever apologize. Part of me has stopped waiting. Maybe one day when Jessica's baby is born, we will be in the same room again. Maybe he will want to meet his grandchild. Maybe that will be the thing that finally breaks through his pride. Or maybe it will not. Either way, I will be okay, because I have built a life I am proud of. A business that thrives. Relationships that nourish me. A partner who sees my value. A sister who loves me. A dog who greets me at the door every evening like I am the best thing in his world. What kind of idiots actually pay me? The kind who respect expertise. The kind who value results over appearances. The kind who understand that the future of work looks different than the past. And I have learned I would rather work for strangers who respect me than family who refuses to. So here I am. 33 now. Another year older, another year wiser, another year free. If you are in a situation where someone constantly diminishes your worth, where love comes with conditions and disrespect, I want you to ask yourself something. What would your life look like if you chose yourself? If you set boundaries and actually enforced them? It is terrifying. I will not lie. Walking away from family, even toxic family, feels like betrayal. But staying in a situation that slowly erodes your self-worth is a different kind of betrayal. A betrayal of yourself. You deserve respect. You deserve to be celebrated, not mocked. You deserve relationships that build you up instead of tearing you down. And if the people in your life cannot provide that, maybe it is time to find people who can. That is not giving up on family. That is choosing yourself. And sometimes choosing yourself is the most loving thing you can do. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? Have you ever walked away from someone you loved because they could not respect you? Drop a comment below. I would love to hear your story. And if this resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who is still trying to earn respect from people who refuse to give it. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope wherever you are, whoever you are, you choose peace over pain. You choose yourself, because you are worth it. Take care of yourselves out there. And remember, your worth is not determined by people who refuse to see it.